And we are back. It's me, Cameron from the internet, with David Kinney of Magnum Galaxy. Welcome, my friend, to Bark After Dark. I have been on the edge of my seat for this interview because I'm such a huge fan of your work. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Cameron. I'm really happy to be on the panic table.
Yeah, just behind the curtain here, David and I were talking about the work that he's done before. Magnum Galaxy is the mind behind such bangers as Dying Hard at Hardlight Station and Nirvana on Fire, which, in this dork's opinion, is just easily one of the most chef's kiss, beautifully designed. Just the cover alone. Like, not that you should be judging every module by its aesthetic. That one, absolutely, please do, because it is, a delight. Exquisite. Well done, David.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm so proud of what I did with Nirvana on Fire. I think a big part of what I do with Magnum Galaxy games is, I was just talking about this in my update actually for Burning Gods, saying like a big part of doing these crowdfunding things that I get to work with really great artists and designers, and like I really get in there and we all kind of work together very collaboratively to sort of produce these things that are like a marriage of text and art and layout. It's my favorite thing. I couldn't have done it without this stuff, so it's awesome.
It's just gorgeous. Welcome to the pool, everybody. As you're filing in, it's me here, masquerading as myself in the panic table. But yeah, as tonight's Bark After Dark unfolds, feel free to ask me or David questions, throw accusations our way, adumbrations. We're here for it. But I think the thing that I want to start off with first is we are both part of Mothership Month. When is Mothership Month? It's right now. It's happening as we speak. We are almost halfway through. It's day 11, I believe we've determined together. And
Yeah,
we
I
are
think so.
responsible for atrocities that you can purchase for your very own down below. So please consider backing our projects. David and Magnum Galaxy are up to an absolutely bananas program with awaiting the burning gods. And it is linked down below right here in the description. So go ahead and give that a click if you're curious to see what we're talking about. And of course, as always, you can see just if it's going to toot your flute, what Dog Eat Dog can do for you. If you've been here before, you know what we're talking about. I digress. David, the first thing I always ask everybody is, how are you feeling about the response so far here in Mothership Month?
Yeah, it's I think I'm sure your other guests have said the same thing, but it's been nuts. Totally. I was very nervous going into it. It's a new thing that Sean and the people at Tuesday Night Games are doing, and I think it's so cool just to see like how the communities come together, how excited people are about it. And I honestly, that day one, I was very nervous. I didn't know if people were going to come out, and I was very, very happy to see kind of the response for sure.
It's that question of like, okay, if there's 20 of us in here and we're all doing kind of the same thing, like is there going to be enough to go around? And it's just been bananas seeing the enthusiasm for all of these projects. So I mean, I'm sure you're over the moon with what's going on over there. Hey,
Very much so.
congratulations is what I'm saying in such a
Thank you.
long-winded fashion of this.
Yeah.
For those
Yeah.
who have not been introduced, would you mind hitting us with an elevator pitch of Awaiting the Burning Gods?
Yeah. So Cameron and I were talking about this. So one thing I like about Burning Gods is that it's got that pitch to it where you can say like, this is things you're familiar with, right? So it's Indiana Jones, the original series, right? Maybe not the newer ones as
You mean
much.
the Shia LaBeouf Indiana
And
Jones?
that's right. Yeah. Maybe that'll be a future sequel, probably not.
Mm.
But also with a little bit of like Stargate in there, like a little less, I mean, everyone knows Stargate, I guess, but it's less popular, a little bit more B movie, bringing some of those influences, plus a lot of literature that I love, and even architectural stuff. I'm always thinking about Antoni Gaudí. He's the architect from Barcelona, famous for the Sagrada Familia and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I love that kind of stuff. Anyway, what are you doing here? It's your classic desert ruins exploration, diving deep into these hidden corners, unexplored crevices. There's a red herring kind of situation going on. There's a bit of a bait and switch. I don't want to give away the secrets, but I just finished another run through of it recently, and my players were totally at the end like, wait, what? Oh, this changes everything, So It was a wonderful moment.
That's exciting. It's like, just from your description, I feel like I can anticipate like a villainous counter faction who's trying to like beat you to said treasure hidden in underneath the sands. Is that an archetype that you find awaiting the Burning Gods as espoused?
You know, yes, that's in there, but I would say in my original draft, I worked with Roz Leahy for as my editor. I don't know if you're know Roz, but she's awesome. I worked with her as well on what else did we do? We did Hunger and Achernar together, and some other work as well. Anyway, Roz in my early draft was really like, I don't know if you should have like a good faction and a bad faction. You've kind of got three in this module. So there's you've got the Landis University survey team. So they're like coming from, you know, a big Ivy League future university.
Cool. Yeah.
And then you've got their corporate backers, which is Sunray Interstellar, and they're kind of they're in the shipping business, and it's a bit mysterious why they're even involved here.
Yeah,
they're the company, right? They're the big bankroll, and you've also got this kind of group of smugglers called Smoking Darkness Reclamations, and they've been hired. They're that competing team that's sort of trying to swoop in under the radar and kind of raid the ruins for the relics, like a little bit of Indiana Jones and the counter people, like the bad Nazi guys. You know, they're sort of coming in there, trying to swoop in and steal some of the artifacts, right? But the trick here is what Roz said originally, and I think it made it so much stronger, was that no one is a clear bad or a clear good player. The university, they're all about trying to get their clout and get their research out. It's not really about, you know, the pure pursuit of knowledge, right? It's really about publishing their papers.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah. And from my own experience in academia, I think there's definitely Roz was she was like, did you mean these character profiles to be like somewhat funny?
Spot on.
And I was like, yeah, I was like, well, yeah, I just had to, you know,
back when you were a tomb robber.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. You know, I was like, yeah, all of that. So anyway, no one's really good, no one's bad. They've all got their own twisted motivation for being there. Even the scavengers, you know, they're sort of people on the outside of society, you know, pushed to the fringes. So what other choices do they have? There's a bit of that going on.
Totally. Yeah, I find actually that's something that's piqued my curiosity. If you don't mind talking about it, what is your background in academia, etc.? How did you arrive here publishing these incredible modules? David, who are you?
Yeah, good question. I'm a teacher. Is my day job. So I'm an English teacher as my background. So yeah, I've living in Vancouver. If you guys are familiar with the west coast of Canada. Yeah, thank you. It's a wonderful place. It was pouring rain today, as it has been every day for the last 3 weeks.
Same here in Brooklyn.
And okay. Oh, you're on the East Coast. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
beautiful. Yeah, so I'm a teacher by day, and I also got into been role playing. I think a lot of people. It's crazy how many people have the same story, right? I was a role player as a teenager. Loved, got into with D&D second edition. That my friend's much older brother had some old like player's guides and stuff, and we got into that. And then we started making our own RPGs based on sort of mashups of like Warhammer 40K meets D&D, and we made our own systems. That was my teenage years, really hacking stuff together. We had my first RPG we wrote was called Metal Warrior, and it was like sort of like a mech warrior thing, and we used the attack system from 40K, where it's like you would roll, I don't know, like 10 dice for your attacks, right? And you could like just trying to add weapons and add different attacks, and it was just crazy. You know, it was so fun. We had like lists of gear and stuff. Anyway, in my 20s, we going to university and getting away from that stuff, and you know, traveling around. I lived in Japan, I lived in China for a while, got into teaching, so sort of dropped off. And then I don't know about you, Cameron, but I came back to it in my late 20s. You know, picked it up, started with Tiny D6, I think is what we started with. Moved into like yeah, exactly. Because I was like, I can't pick up these D&D books. Like they're too like I don't have time to read.
Yeah,
I don't have time. So I'm like, give me something quick and light. I tried Fate, didn't work for me, and then I got into Dungeon World for a while, and was there in the like G plus days in the Dungeon World community with
Right on.
probably yeah, like Yokai Gall was there and a bunch of
Yeah.
other people like that.
We're buds
Yeah,
on Blue
we
Sky.
would trade.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. We would trade like ideas all the time with the people there. And that's kind of what got me back into game design and publishing. I published some early Dungeon World stuff. I'm going to show you something.
Hit me. Yeah. This is exciting.
Okay. Look at this. Oh, what? Okay.
Yeah, no, you had it
there.
the first time. Der Verflüchtete von Drake.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
this was the Cursed Tower of Drazu I published for Dungeon World. It's the first thing I ever put on Drive Thru RPG. And a few years back, a German
How was my
publishing
German
RPG
just then? Was it perfect?
I have no idea. I'm going to say 100% perfect.
Amazing. Sorry for interrupting. Keep going.
Yeah. So they reached out to me and they're like, hey, for Free RPG Day, do you mind if I do like a German translation of your the Cursed Tower of Drazu? I said, do I mind? That sounds amazing. And
Wunderbar.
so, yeah, it is Wunderbar. I mean, look at that thing. So
That's
cool.
very cool. Yeah.
Anyway, shortly after that, like G Plus shut down and I got into Mothership. How did I discover it? Maybe Reddit. Maybe it was like Reddit RPG, some buzz there. I don't know, some online forums. But I got in pretty early, like 0E days. And I wrote, what did I do first? Nirvana on Fire was first. I put it on the Discord for free. And Ian Newsom actually reached out, Hull Breach Ian Newsom. And he was like, hey, man, this is pretty good. Like, you should think about getting an editor, getting like a graphic designer and putting this up on, like charging a few bucks for it. And so I was like, well, you're crazy. But you know how Sean McCoy has that deal where he typically will buy 50 copies of, if you make something, he'll buy 50 copies. It's like, well, that'll pay the bills. I'm like, sure, it'll pay the bill for the graphic design. And I threw it up there, and that's pretty much the rest is history. I did Zine Quest 2021, I think, with Hardlight Station.
Sure.
And I've been going since then.
Right on. I mean, if you can believe this, we got started, and by we I mean in the pandemic. Like, I had dabbled in role-playing games before, but I was never like the guy. Of all the systems I started with Luke Crane and Thor Olvasrud's Torchbearer, like of the Burning Wheel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And man, after like some friends and I ground through that for like almost a year and a half in the height of the pandemic's grasp, before we were like, do any of us like playing this anymore? And that's not to knock. It's a cool system. It's an intricate clock. But it's definitely like the crispiest of crunchy crunch as far as getting it right. But once you do, it works beautifully together. But yeah, we had just sort of realized, no, this wasn't any fun and there wasn't enough freedom. People wanted to just go bonkers. So I went from like one of the hardest possible versions of like a dungeon crawler to then branching out and just kind of seeing what's out there, immediately realizing that everything I did was horror-faced anyway. And so I can say with certainty how Mothership came across our bow. And that was Quadra Zone's blog. Trash, TRAAA.sh.
Yeah.
Shout out, Quadra. You do
good.
incredible work. And I'm obsessed by Warped Beyond Recognition. It's so great. Yeah. If you're listening, check out Quadra's, I think their storefront's called Paradiso is their imprint, and they just do incredible work. But just reading Quadra's after action reports alone, I was like, this sounds like an amazing game. And just jumped in, and here we are now cranking out content nightly for Mothership Month. And that is just kind of all she wrote. Oh, I do love it. So what a special thing. You are notorious. Go ahead. You sounded like you were... I
was just going to ask you, Cameron, do you have other background like in improv or anything? Because I feel like you have such a natural way, like in your streams, of like building the action, and you've got that real flow.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I went to Catholic middle school, I would say, is probably where I inherited that disruptive. Yeah, that tenaciousness goes. No, I was hired one time to MC a wedding, and they flew me out, and I did
Hmm.
that, and that was an ordeal. But I think that yeah, no, so no formal improv training. It was
Mm.
it's yeah, it's just it was truly so by day I'm co-captain of the ship over at a place called Failure Island, a production company that I started with a buddy here in Brooklyn. And we were sitting in our
Hmm.
studio after we make like software commercials for a living. Yeah, they're
Hmm.
colorful, they're fun, they're cool. But we were sitting in our studio and I was watching Dimension 20 and I was like, how hard could this be? And it turns out it's very hard. But uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I can
it's
imagine.
been worth it. Honestly, David, the reason I brought you on right now is to crack this chestnut. And I was
Hmm.
cracking up over somebody posted on Blue Sky. They were like, the greatest trick the devil ever played was convincing everyone that 5e is the only system out there. And that's the wall we're trying to scale now. And I felt like falling so deeply in love with Mothership. I was like, we're gonna stay indie. We're gonna
Hmm.
go, and we're looking around. Like I've got my eyeballs on liminal horror. Goblin Archives is a genius.
Hmm.
I love
Hmm.
just all of the amazing things. Everything Banana Chan touches is incredible. And
Hmm.
so, figuring out what the future holds for us, I think we'll keep Mothership as a main show and spider out a little bit, but
Yeah.
and just really set up the Panic Table as a horror indie hub. That's got that heart and that comedy aspect because it's just it's you know having people with great senses of humor go into horrifying situations together. There's nothing like it. That's
Yeah.
how I relax. Maybe I should see a therapist. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. What was I was gonna accuse you of something fun, but
Uh-oh.
yeah. Danny Gable says, "Hey, hey, hey." Uh, hey, Danny, what's up? What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. Specifically, before we talk even more about Awaiting the Burning Gods, which I'm enthusiastic about, specifically the cover art, uh, I want to talk about your just far and away. If you're known for something, it's got to be Dying Hard on Hard Light Station. Uh, you
Right.
seem to, and we were talking about this a little bit behind the curtain as well. Uh, of just yeah genre and its relationship to publishing. So I would love to talk about you, your team, and your process as you lock in on an idea. And we can start with like Dying Hard or whatever fits for you. But just yeah, does that seem like a good trajectory for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely start with all my projects start in sort of a different place. Sometimes it's a genre mashup thing where I just love the idea of taking two films, smash them together, putting them in space, and see what happens, right? Like that's a simple, fun
Right.
recipe, and for
It's
me,
the
it just
Barbie movie
brings
meets
up the joy
Terminator
of
2.
that sounds great. Like I want to do that now. Yeah, yoink.
Yeah.
Uh, like doing that kind of exercise. I'm a writer. I've been creative writing since I was 5. I don't know. Like, I dictated my first story about some gangs fighting with chains to my aunt, who is very religious, where she typed out this story when I was 5 for me. So I've been doing it a long time. Uh, you know, I don't know where that came from, but so smashing ideas together, that's one thing that inspires me. That's definitely what happened with Dying Hard on Hardlight Station. It's just like I love Die Hard, I love Alien. I think could be very Mothership. I want to do something Christmas. I
Mm.
love that. And it just those ideas like in the stew pot just generated so much stuff so fast. Like the first draft of that came out so quick. Um, so this is the kind of things that I do. Like with Hunger and Achernar, it was like after The Ship is a Tomb came out. If you remember
Mm.
that
Mm-hmm.
big procedurally generated kind of hell ship kind of crawl thing that
An Event Horizon-y
who
type
made that?
situation. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so after that came out, I was like, okay, so cool, but it's 100 pages long. Can I do a one shot of that? You know what I mean? So I'm like, what's boiling that down? So I took that, and I also took one of the starting scenarios for an index card RPG when I was flipping through that book, and I guess there's two forces going on, just to clarify. One, this hell ship, but a one shot. Two is my love of like how Shakespeare's writing process, and I don't
Okay.
want to sound pretentious here, but
I'm right
Shakespeare's
there with you.
process he never just made a plot out of nothing. Like he's not, he would take a famous poem or someone else's short story or even a play in Italian or whatever, and he would then kind of rewrite it, overwrite it, do it his way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I am not comparing myself to Shakespeare, but
you heard it here first
but
tonight
that
on Bark
process,
After Dark. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That process of like taking another piece of inspiring media and kind of redoing it, but like just totally blending it, mangling it, messing it up, and doing it my own way is really inspiring to me. One other version of that story that I also am inspired by from my process is, have you seen you've probably seen Annihilation, the film?
Area X is my single favorite piece of modern American literature. It's
yeah,
I've seen it once or twice.
Okay. Have you heard the backstory about how the director of the film wrote his script?
Yes, but please, for our benefit, right? Tell us. It's a great story.
Yeah. I love it. I mean, in short, what he did was, I think he'd read it, but years earlier, and then he was like,
early manuscript of it, like just kind of a rough draft of Annihilation. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he rewrote it from memory, and his whole thing, they were like, oh, do you want to read the final copy? He's like, no, not at all. Like, the whole idea is that I want to reinterpret this for myself, my own way. And that's so fitting in that film's, whole themes, right? This idea of reconstitution and recreation and what's the word? Simulacra, right? So those things together, I think, really define a lot of what gets me going creatively. Right.
I love that.
Mashing up influences, rewriting over things, coming up my own way, misremembered facts, misremembered details. You know what I mean? Like sort of to the side of something, you just missed it, but that's the new target. I don't know. That's sort of how I write. That's what I love to do.
That's wonderful. Now, do those memory is something I'm really passionate about exploring in games, especially because it comes up a lot in Mothership, a game where, unlike a lot of tabletop stuff, like player agency is frequently on the line. Like what you think you know is true might not be there in a very like, elegantly simplified Delta Green sort of way. Suddenly, like who you are might not be who you are, and so yeah, maybe this is getting us too into the weeds too quick, but how do you employ misremembered stuff when you're running games? We went from like 30,000 feet to like 10 feet, but I would love to hear what you have to say on that.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I mean, for a very specific mechanical way, I employ sort of backstory. Mothership's interesting. I think in the Quinn's Quest interview, he talked, or not interview, review of Mothership, right? He was really talking about his one quibble was maybe there's not enough like party building tools. Oh yeah, well the stealth is the classic one, but this idea of like building your character backstory into it. So I brought that in from other story games. I do that kind of just by habit often, but I'm also playing with ideas of how do we do this in a way that's sort of native to Mothership, right? And so of course you got your patch, you've got your trinket, and I like to do hidden agendas. Awaiting the burning. They're always optional, but they can add a lot, right? And so with those, like hidden agendas, I think we kind of talk about it. It's always this dance too. I don't know if you've had this before where you're trying to figure out how much to say to the player about their hidden agenda without, giving them enough they can play it if it's complicated without revealing too much about what's to come,
I have thoughts on this actually. Joining this jamboree, because that's at first like I'm so tickled because of like the kooky thing you've got cooked up for your players, but I found especially it's a key conceit of our AP that we'll take a peek at here in a little bit, coming up about Dog Eat Dog. It's a winnable season of Mothership, and so since it's a duet, each of them has secret objectives, and we filmed this one like a reality show with confessionals and those sorts of things, so that we can kind of like track their strategic progress as they enter literal prisoners' dilemmas against each other. And so, but in that, giving them secret objectives that lack context. So it would be for someone something like, kill this person, and they've just entered a prison. They don't know who like Igor so-and-so is. They just know that they have to like somebody's target, and it's contextual, but creating a layer of oppression even within the secret goal, so that suddenly, like, they are both activated and paranoid, if that makes any sense. Like, yeah.
Mm.
So they have more
Yeah.
questions than they have answers is really delicious for me.
Yeah, we had a scene. One of them was like you're a mole for smoking darkness reclamation. So
Ooh.
the explicit scenario in Awaiting the Burning Gods is that you're part of the survey team sent to
Mm,
Mott to discover these alien ruins to uncover them, and you're also
cool.
rescuing the team that came before you who are lost in a storm. So you're there rescuing them. But one of the secret objectives is that you could be a mole for this scavenging outfit, the most like piratical people who are trying to steal profit from the ruins however they can. And you're actually kind of on the inside. And in my last playthrough, it was revealed just by chance from some of the random tables that one of the characters was a mole almost right away, and he ended up having to make the decision. He's like, okay, do I decide in this moment to reveal my identity or do I kind of deny it? And he denied it in a very forceful way by blowtorching the face of one of his contacts in
Oh, gosh.
Smoking Darkness. Yeah, and from then on, everyone was like, wait, what was that thing? And it was sort of dropping these hints like, wait, they called you Argo? Your name is Argo? He's like, no, that was nothing. It was this ongoing beat the whole time where he was playing through that. So it led to a great tension throughout for sure. That was super fun.
I love thinking through there's a romance, I think, to Await the Burning Gods and the familiar touch points there of working for like this at least in one conceit noble institution like the university, but behind that there's this greedy company that just needs the results and the discoveries, and within that questions, zooming back out, simple ones like about what sort of size of an adventure and world can we expect from Await the Burning Gods? How many sessions do you imagine like a normal one would go on average? Things like that. Hit us some stats.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're looking at, I don't think you could do Burning Gods in less than 3 sessions. So it is a
Sure.
mini campaign. There's 3 main areas. So I've always imagined that as 3 acts. But I've never done it in less than 4, so it's a
Right.
it's a 4-session 3-act adventure. You could do as many probably as 5. You'd have a hard time to do it in 2, but I do have alternate start scenario where you play like I'm always trying to think of different ways we can play an adventure to get more life out of it. Like you have this book and you want to play with one group. And maybe you've got time for 4 sessions, but another group wants to play it. Like I really have this problem with Hardlight Station. People want to play it all the time, but it's always 2 sessions. You can't do it. I've done it in one once, but it's like severely truncated.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I wanted to give a way to play the scenario, but in like a 1-shot or a 2-shot. And so there's an alternate start scenario where you play as those smugglers and you already have some preloaded information, like shortcuts through the scenario. And so I think the standard way to play it would be 3, 4, maybe 5, but there is like an alternate start setup where you can do it in 1 or even 2.
Cool.
Yeah, that's the length. That's what I'm targeting there. It's my longest like pure adventure thing. Most of my work before Nirvana on Fire, Hard Light, those are 2, 3 shots. Hunger and Achernar you could do in 1. House Sigma 7 is 1 evening. Sure. So this is definitely like you're sitting in for a few sessions here for sure.
Right. There's that heavy exploration theme there. We were talking about touch points here, and you said something really intriguing insofar as architecture inspires you. Would you mind touching on that?
Yeah, so I was talking about Antoni Gaudí. So if you know the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona is his most famous work, but his whole thing is very fascinating. He was all about like looking to nature and the structures in nature to inspire his architecture, right? He's like, how does a leaf hold up? How does a forest canopy be held aloft? What principles can he mine from that? And so I've went there, I saw it. It's beautiful. It's breathtaking. If you've been there, I'm looking up at the roof of the Sagrada Familia is an amazing experience. No matter what background you're coming from, and his other stuff too. So for me, that's like always in my work of this way you're blending this organic utopian kind of architecture into this way, but also it's not finished, right? And a lot of his work was unfinished. He was hit by a bus, I think, at the end of he was still old, but he was hit by a bus.
I had no idea, really.
He was, yeah. And then anarchists also broke in. They smashed all his models I think they
Classic
dynamited them,
anarchist.
maybe. Yeah, I know. That's 1920s in Barcelona. It was a crazy time. Anyway, so you've got this like architectural thing, and then I'm also thinking about 3D printers, and I'm thinking about print failure. You know what I mean? That was in the mix here. And so the major theme of the architecture as you're getting into, Ma'at is the planet, and you land in the ruins. You're looking at it's this beautiful utopian architecture, but it's all flawed, like as though they're like a bismuth crystal or a failed 3D print. So it's like you've got a statue, but instead of a head or an arm, it's got 1,000 arms fanning out that are just
Cool.
repeating because the code's wrong, right? That kind of thing. So
Oh,
I think
rocks.
for players to explore that is pretty, they're like, what the hell is this? Is this alien? Is it human? Why is it like this? Is this on purpose? Is it a mistake? A friend of mine described it. There's an MC Escher kind of vibe too, and some of it like this nonsensical architecture, building for the sake of building. Those ideas,
That's great.
I guess one other interesting thing is, like I mentioned briefly, I spent a year living in China. I was teaching in China, and I don't know if you know much about the Chinese construction industry, but they had a long kind of construction bubble where they were propping up their GDP by this sort of pyramid building scheme where companies would borrow billions of dollars to build a giant project like a replica of Paris. If you've seen like that before.
What? No, I had no idea.
It's a real thing. You should look it up. It's crazy. Anyway, like a replica of Paris, and it's like, oh, but it's in the middle of rural China, and it's like it looks just like downtown Paris. And they'd build that, and then they'd fund that, and then they get a loan to fund the next thing built off the back of the sales they're projecting on that one. Anyway, it led to this thing where, many companies were building so many buildings, and they would just build them never to be lived in. There were whole stretches of the town I lived in where there were blocks and blocks and blocks of these massive concrete buildings that were made of the cheapest material possible. Like you could poke your hand through the wall. And it was like these kind of cardboard buildings, right? So I think that's in the mix here too, of like this utopian city that is crumbling to the touch. It's flawed, it's broken, but it could almost be beautiful. And you're exploring like, why is this place like this? What's the complicated history of this? Who is this for? And what happened to it?
Well, just looking at the cover art that you've provided for us there, the answer is simple. It's very clearly the Scorpion King. That's something that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
Now, is Cyber Scorpion Centaur something that players can look forward to, or what's the deal there with our many-legged friend?
Oh yeah. So I love that we were talking about, here I am talking about like the Chinese architecture, the Chinese building industry, the architecture of Antoni Gaudi, and then honestly, the other side, like I love trashy action movies in the 90s and the 80s, right? So is that inspired by the Scorpion King? Absolutely. Do I love that? Yes. Did my editor say the first thing we need to see is the Scorpion King? I said absolutely. We got to lean into that for sure. Like, so I can talk about all these. I can talk about Shakespeare and all this stuff all day long, but honestly, I also want to see people get their heads cut off by giant like claws, and people have like laser cutter blasts from their scorpion tails. Like that's also very much in this.
When you play Mothership, here's something I've always been curious about, because if you can believe it, even though we've run a whole dang show about it for 10 episodes and now this new season, I haven't played under a lot of other people, and that's one thing I'm hoping to. Hey, if you're at PAX U, you're at PAX U. We're looking around for stuff. I might study at the feet of other masters. But cosmologically speaking, how do you play the possibility of alien life when interacting with, because as we know, Mothership really like sprouts from this bulb of blue collar space experience, more or less. Like you are when you begin, you are not the main character as written in an action film, and you become that person over time. What is your take on interacting with extraterrestrials? Do you incorporate them, etc.?
Yeah, that's really cool. I've definitely started digging in the vein of like, we're looking at our touchstones. Alien is the obvious touchstone in that world where it's extraterrestrial life is not a common thing, and intelligent aliens are non-existent, I think, in that universe. Also, The Expanse is another good touchstone of like your modern, fairly hard sci-fi that's pretty constrained by real world
Capitalism.
science and closer
Yeah.
to our world. And capitalism as well. That's a major
Yeah.
constraint for sure. Exactly. And so for me, the aliens, there's always like there's definitely like alien flora and fauna on other planets. That's something I've worked with for sure. But intelligent alien life, like you've got hints of the kind of the symbiotic alien creatures in Hardlight Station, right? The red goo that infects people. And that's sort of an intelligence, but it's not like aliens that walk up to you and have a translator and you can have a conversation.
Yeah.
Exactly. And Burning Gods walks that same line as well, where it's like, oh, is this like the setup for my players, and it's in the zine, is like, this could be first contact. Do you know what I mean? Like, first contact has not happened with another intelligent alien culture. This could be it. So this is a huge deal. Like, that's the priming scenario. Like, you're on what could be a historical mission right now. And as you explore that, that's sort of where we're at. It's not like, oh yeah, we're talking to the Klingons and we're talking to the other, what are the elf guys called? Spock people.
Oh, Vulcans.
Vulcans, yeah, that's right. Yeah. You know, it's not Starfleet, you know.
Right. If you're just joining us here in the chat, welcome aboard. I'm talking with David Kinney, aka Magnum Galaxy, about their incredible work Awaiting the Burning Gods, available on Mothership Month. I'm just interrupting here to encourage you, if you've got questions, smoke them if you got them. Pop them in the chat. We'll do our best to answer those. And or if you want to just hurl insults at us, please save that until the very end. We're both very sensitive people.
Yeah.
Sorry, David, I totally stepped on what you were saying. Where were you going with that?
I wanted to ask you about how you approach that in your world. I was reading through the campaign page, looking at the materials. It's very exciting, and it seems like you guys are building you're building your own kind of cosmology. You're building your own backstory, and I would like to hear more about that for sure.
One of my favorite things. Also, thank you. Yes, I would love to. I think about this all the time. Yeah. One of the coolest primers for our world is, I had to find the link to this because it happened while we were running our Void Stream campaign here on BackerKit, the found footage stuff from Mothership, which I'm very excited about. Oh, hey, while you're here, let me put on my salesman hat. Stay tuned for Black Friday because you will have a limited time to jump back in. If you didn't back Void Stream then, you can back it now. So just letting you know here in case you didn't know that while that's going on. But I digress. Some YouTube power user took in episode 1 of Unaccompanied Minors, our show, our first show, I do like a 5-minute lore dump, and people love that. That's just talking nonstop for 5 minutes uninterrupted about lore. What a beautiful way to relate a story. And I'm being sarcastic, but somebody on the internet took that and made this rad as hell found footage primer using that information, and then use that for their tables. Whoa. I think too. I'll share it down here after this. But one of the coolest, I think it was like the editor of, do you remember Rooster Teeth, the like red versus blue company that did?
Oh yeah.
It was their like editor. He was just like, oh yeah, just watched the show, thought it was cool. So shout out if you're watching these. Thanks for making that thing. But yeah, I share that hauntedness that I think is you see it in Alien, and I think just as we watch these third-party publishers branch out and explore new things, is echoed without being enunciated, that if there were friendly civilizations, they are dead. And that what you're seeing is the husk, and the things that remain were not intended to remain, or worse, are like perversions of that culture that persist until now. And so similarly in our world, a planetary fragment collided with the moon, and that fragment held evidence of kind of like Await the Burning Gods, like some ancient super civilization. And I would say the key thing that we bring to the Mothership Flavor Fest is a two-parter. One of it deliberately cribbed from my absolute all-time favorite television show, The Leftovers, which I don't know if you've had the pleasure, but I'm gaga over it. It's The Leftovers and our show revolve around this event that we'll talk over. So aliens crash into the moon. Oh no, that has a lot of problems. It ends the Cold War and also civilization for a while. Earth tends to need the moon, it turns out. But all sorts of tech falls to Earth, including the first android. And we piggybacked off of Sean, and I don't know if he's the mind behind their Dorian monster suggestion in the Unconfirmed Contact Reports book.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so in our world, that is the chassis on which humans then retconned tech to make true androids, like beings with personhood. So we live in this world where even now, though we have the means to produce androids, we do not fathom the heart of an android. Like it is, they are among us, and yet they remain other, even if we can mass produce them. And so, in tandem with that, mankind never figures out. Look at me, I'm just doing another 5-minute lore dump. But they never.
I'm loving it.
It's so fun. They never figure out FTL, faster than light travel. It just never happens in our cosmology. And so we also have a university. It's in French, the Institute of Celestial Studies, or I guess like Institut Studies Celestial, if you had to do the Canadian thing. They
Thank you.
They jump in and in pursuing this find another means of travel through space using something called deeper than light travel, and there's just a big fat question mark on that. But it results in very familiar warp gates in space where you go on one end, you pop out the other, space is truncated somehow. The second that is activated, 10% of the human population vanishes from existence, no matter across all pieces of the galaxy. And so to bring all of this home, androids, like a company like the chief android, the Blade Runner type rules, like creating realer than real type androids with the participation of all human companies, provides a free copy of everybody who ever went missing to families who would accept them. And then 10 years later, you have the Uncanny Valley issue of all of these people who don't want replacement family members just vanishing. David, I've lost you briefly, but I'm just going to keep talking as we see what's going on there. It's probably that you've lost interest, but if you haven't, I'm going to take a moment in the middle of this enthusiastic lore dump. Oh, you're back. Good. I just figured
back.
if I would vamp long enough that you would go there. Anyway. Yeah. So a key conceit of what we're doing is that you have this diaspora of people who used to be they're living ghosts of mysteriously vanished folks. Why am I telling you all of that? Because in the midst of that, this was such a long-winded way of talking about.
It's okay.
And dog eat dog.
I'm very fast. You've just to say I know we only have 15 minutes left, which is a shame because I really would love to hear a little bit.
We can keep talking.
How did you create this complicated and yet very understandable situation? You can see all the drama that's inherent in the situation. What was your process for creating that backstory?
David, I think I might, because I cherish the sound of my own voice. I would be happy if you're down to slightly extend this episode. I don't have anywhere to be in 15 minutes if you don't have anywhere to be, but I also want to respect it if you do. Yeah, cool.
No, I'm good.
How about we set the tone? Speaking of selfish desires, I would love to show the people watching at home a clip from our trailer here, just for 2 minutes, and then I would love to answer that question. So I'll see you on the other side. Pew!
If you're listening to this, I'm sorry, but it's too late. You're in it now. They told you this was a place of healing, a chance to learn and grow alongside man's best friend. The Fern Kennel Club offers prisoners a unique form of canine rehabilitation. They said they don't just breed dogs here, they breed hope. But those best friends, well, they aren't so friendly anymore. And hope can die in a place like this.
This is a winnable AP show. Whoever completes the most hidden objectives is the winner of the season.
That's so stressful.
I'm sweating already.
Do not let Cameron
get in our heads.
We
can't let him win.
How do you turn off the machine?
The machine can't be turned off, darling.
Cassie's gonna pick up the flamethrower.
Is this the last murder I have to commit here?
That's
will
right.
Will it be the last murder?
You shanked a guy in the
I
throat.
did shank a guy in the throat.
She has the smell of burning hair in her nose and the smell of her own burning flesh, because this is flesh and hair.
This was supposed to be a second shot at redemption. It may be your last.
Things are about to get significantly worse.
Fuck this game.
2 contestants. 1 mysterious prison complex. 0 chances of escaping. Dog eat dog. Only on the panic table.
And we're back.
Awesome.
That's fun, right? I'm really excited about this. The insider information for you, I want to get at least episode 1 out prior to the end of Mothership. So we're looking at something in that last sprint there, just so people can at least get a taste of what we have to offer there. If you're just now joining us, hey, thanks for being here. Please hit us with questions if you have any for David Kinney of Magnum Galaxy, as we talk about awaiting the burning gods, world building, the philosophy behind storytelling, and yeah, how we go about making our worlds come to life. We have the strict pleasure of keeping David on for a few extra minutes just to geek out about building stuff. And
That's right.
if you wouldn't mind, I loved the question that you framed. Would you hit us with it again so that we can properly contextually seat ourselves into the discussion that is to come? Long sentence.
Yeah, we've been digging into world building, like you said, and I was saying how, as you were talking about how you build, what do you call your world, by the way?
I mean, I guess it's like, just canonically, it's the world of unaccompanied minors. Yeah. So like, I mean, and the world that Dog Eat Dog takes place on is Earth. I had been steering away from it. The rest of our universe takes place in a section of space called the Abyssal Ore Cluster. So everything else we've designed is out on like the rim of space, and then Dog Eat Dog is Earth. So,
Right.
yeah.
So when you're thinking about that design, what I was kind of highlighting just before the trailer was how you've got a complex sort of a setup for your world.
Sure.
You know, you have a lot happening, but it's also clear, and you can see the dramatic highlights of how these pieces are going to fit together, how they're going to create tension, how they're going to create interesting situations. And so my question to you was, how do you go about building that? Is that a solo creation? Is it a collaborative creation? And what is your process?
Great question. So it's a few pieces of things. Like, I marinate on what I would love to see for like at least in the beginning, for like months on end, which is different, I would say, from just normal prepping for like a game with friends like that. You know. Now, I also haven't been blessed. I don't have like a year-long or years-long table of friends here. I've only recently been able to like branch out to have friends who even like this kind of stuff in Brooklyn. So we're figuring it out. There's definitely a presence here. I just really hadn't tapped into it. I have had the pleasure with playing a bunch of like panic table types online. That's been super fun. But yeah, so percolation is one thing, and like you said, I mean, just as far as like literature or philosophy, things that just really inspire come into the works. And you know, for me, I'm a big like film and TV dork, and love thinking about those things. But a lot of our process, shout out to Silviana Russo, who writes with us. She's a producer on our show. For fans of like the actual play genre, she pioneered a huge portion of the show Kolok, which was a kids on bike sci-fi horror situation happening a few years ago with Hyper RPG. And that they really tried some ambitious things, and theirs was entirely live. We did some research and we're like, heck no, that is a different horse to ride entirely. As we're doing now, live is hard, David. And so but so it's a dual process. Like, I come in with like a brief. And this is something I'm excited about, especially as we consider who's going to warden future seasons of the Panic Table. As I've told you, I'm enamored by the sound of my own voice, but I want to get other talent, people of different like ethnicities, genders, backgrounds, histories, get them in there. And there's so many talented people out there. And so I'm excited to see who we can put in the hot seat. And selfishly, I would love to play at those tables, but we'll see.
Right.
But yeah, so it's collaborative the second it hits the team, because then I'm working with it's Silviana, who has like the dual jobs of both like producing the show and like at breaks and stuff. She's equal parts lore keeper and would jump in and be like, okay, if this decision, then that, which means ramification wise that in our world the company is called Blastex Wilson, a gelato heavy materials company, and it yeah, like, so extrapolating those things becomes a family event. With Dog Eat Dog specifically, it was crazy because one of my dear friends, Justin Estrada, who was cam-opping on the show and editing behind the scenes for Unaccompanied Minors, like, we'd have sessions where, like, we'd all be kind of stumped, where, like, the story would as happens sometimes when you're playing a game, where it's like, like, the players did the craziest thing, and now, during this bio break, we don't know where the story is going to go. So having a team of people who are just like, what if, and it's just basically having an ad hoc, like, improvisational writer's room is...
You mean... wait, do you mean, like, in the 10-minute break? Like, between...
Yes. So we would like so you saw the trailer. We would go to that like, we'd go on one of the like beautiful porches of this vacation home we rented to shoot the show in, and just kind of like throw around ideas about how to proceed. And I say writers, it's in the sense of like improvisational AP. So nothing is written other than like what is true, but that's really how we would claw our way forward. So some of the, like, my favorite characters that like as the warden I would embody came from the crew suggestions, like Elmo, who is just this guy who talks like this and tends to like quote Shakespeare in season 1, like 1000% stolen from my friend Justin Estrada, who he was a character named Kermpf when in a D&D game I was playing, who was just he's the one NPC that like wound up becoming the main quest despite everybody's attempts to, you know. So with Dog Eat Dog specifically, I know we wanted to do Wages of Sin, and this was even before we knew we were going to make a book around it. We just knew we wanted to make something for Mothership Month, because we're the Mothership show. How do we pass that? Ryan, we love Elmo, and yep, lots of Elmo love in the chat. Just please represent. But I'm still getting used to the streamer thing. I don't identify as a streamer, and I think that's confusing for people in the Mothership community, because they're like, ugh, the streamer's here, and I don't know how to stream. Oh wow, we're getting little. I said let's get some love in the chat, and little hearts are popping up. The internet is a magic place, David, and we're co-experiencing that together. But yeah, to put a lid on my question, I mean my response to your question. Like for Dog Eat Dog, we were on a road trip to a wedding, and by we I mean my wife and my beautiful dog, Detective Remington, and we started to think about, like, what haven't I seen in Mothership? Because there's, like, you've covered a lot of the best parts of Mothership. Derelict space stations, far-flung locales. And other than certain pieces, like Cloud Empress, which has now become its own thing, shout out Watt, you genius. You don't see a lot of Earth stuff. So I wanted to come home and explore what has happened environmentally and, like, have it be a little bit about class discussion. And then also, like, what's less threatening than a good dog? And so putting those two things, like, Mothership is maximally threatening and Fluffy Boys is the thing you could trust, and really just ruining that seemed great. Allow me to just sort of serve that question back to you.
Yeah, I first of all, I love that also idea of, you know, Mothership, there's a lot of third-party content, and there's a lot of awesome content. But it does feel sometimes like, how am I going to do something that hasn't been done in this space already? But I always find when I come up with that question, it doesn't take me long to think, oh, but there's that thing I could do. Or I take this weird inspiration. Or like you said with your dog, like take a dog and make it scary. You know, you mash it up. And that's something we haven't seen in our Mothership space very much. You know, I really want to do like a daylight horror thing where it's all about beautiful places and, you know, gardens and lushness, right? And yet blood on the leaves kind of a thing, right? I really want that to be a thing that I'm doing soon. I'm working on something for that. But it's always fine. It's one of those constraints breeds creativity thing. You know, take all the obvious stuff off the table, you know what I mean? And let's find these cool niches to get really interesting places to explore. I think it can be a really inspiring space.
You find that in the... Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
In the Warden's operating manual, God bless you, Sean. Like they've already, there's a section near the tail end of the book for designing your Mothership adventures, where Sean's like, "Hey man, you're gonna find after running 2 or 3 of these games, you're gonna be repeating shticks that your table's gonna get used to. The abandoned space station, the demon in the computer, whatever it is." And so they very thoughtfully just provide just ordinary roll tables to like shake up your adventure and really start mixing genres and tropes and things. And so I love one that's just built in is like, hey man, like it can't always. This is what it comes down to, and sometimes I'm flummoxed, and other times I get it. Like the debate is not should I be playing Alien RPG or Mothership. Like that's not the question. Alien is wonderful if you want to live the movie Alien. I also find if you've been playing Alien for 5 sessions, you've kind of that gold mine's mined. Like there's oh no, it's more xenomorphs or ancient aliens or chest bursters. Make your pick. And I say that with a devil may care attitude. I could do that for years. I think I'm worried about it, but yeah, Mothership can absolutely do that, and is unlimited in what else you can apply to. I'm sure if you're imaginative, like. That's the crazy thing. I keep gatekeeping here on the station, only to realize that, like, role-playing game, that's the whole thing. Like, no one is confining you. Do what you would like. Play the game you would like to play. And so I love finding, like you're saying, like, yeah, horror in broad daylight at high noon. Where can things go wrong where they really shouldn't? And that's why I'm enamored by the genre, because any situation is just one bad day away from being the worst day of everybody's life. The happiest, the most wholesome things you can just corrupt. And so I think constantly overlooked, especially in like a world that's accustomed to 5e, said Cameron, who I'm suspicious is starting a monologue. People are trained to be like, cool, what's the monster? How do I kill it? That's the game. Yeah. And Mothership absolutely sparkles, and that's what I'm looking forward to in adventures like Await the Burning God specifically. It's the at the mountains of madness of it, where it's not encountering the thing, it's finding the evidence of that and letting your players just sit with that and having it inform the rest of their actions, because suddenly when they find the first hideous thing that happened to the team that came before and they don't have the answers to why, and you're not telling them, that's why we play. Here's a question for you. As you find yourself knee-deep in play sessions, and I'm probably guilty of this, maybe not on the show, but maybe. When have you had something in mind, and then the crew you're playing with jumps to a conclusion to like, oh my gosh, the bears are centipedes, and then you were just like, you know what? Yes, that was in my mind all along, and it just absolutely was not. Yeah. There's a whole thing in Burning Gods. I mean, I don't want to give too much away, but just a little glimpse into it. My first playtest, I was telling, everyone listening, I was telling Cameron before we got on here, I've been working on Burning Gods for about 2 years. I actually wrote the first draft, about 2 years ago, and ran a playtest, about 1.5 years ago. And that was the playtest where this is more of the sketch. This is the outline session. I've got certain key moments kind of written out. I've got some lore stuff, but there's lots of blank spaces. And players were coming up with stuff. They found this mask, which I invented. And they're like, oh, but this mask, could we use it to open this door? And I'm like, oh, could you use it to open the door? I don't know why you try. And my brain is like on fire. And I'm like, oh yeah, that would be amazing. They should definitely try to open the mask with the door. Yes. And now, are there masks that you can open doors with? Absolutely. Was that there before that? No. Yeah. That's so I love those moments. I try to get that. Hardlight's got that in it. A lot of my stuff has like early play test little Easter eggs for my play testers. I love throwing that stuff in there. They see it and they're like, oh my God, there's a whole character built around this weird Russian mystic that I was playing this one time. So there's lots of that kind of homage to my home game sprinkled throughout for sure. Yeah. That's fun to think about. I've been so knee deep in editing the show and like and putting together like dog eat dog bag. I kind of just want to play some Mothership sometime. Doesn't that sound fun? Yeah, I know. Oh wow, I know, totally. I snuck in a few sessions of World of Dungeons actually recently, in between my different playtests and stuff. Have you played World of Dungeons? Tell me everything. I have no
It's
idea
like
what you're talking about.
it's like John Harper, Blades in the Dark, John Harper, his stripped down version of like, what if you did Dungeon World, but it was 2 pages. The rules was 2 pages. You know what I mean? You
Right
just
on.
boil it down to like the most essential mechanic. And so it's so fun to be, if you're a little more experienced, like it wouldn't be anyone's first RPG because it's got like
Right.
one mechanic, and you got to build off that. But it's so stripped down. We played like Tomb of the Serpent Kings with some friends and his son, who's like 10, and he was so into it. And that was such a palate cleanser. We had a great time running away from goblins and rolling boulders down hills and stuff. And I do think it's hard to make time because I love our hobby, but it does take a lot of our time. It's a 4-hour night, right? But sneaking those in is great. And so same with low stakes Mothership games where it's not like I'm planning a new thing. It's just like, oh, I'm gonna run another bug hunt. I had such a great time running another bug hunt, or
It's so fun.
something like that.
It's just great. What are other tasty palate cleansers? Like, for the horror enthusiast who's like, I want to have a spooky time at a table, and like you've played some Mothership. Where else do you steer the ship?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, for me, when I'm not running my stuff, I'm doing the first party stuff for fun, but also just to be like, how are these guys doing it? I know Sean and the gang, they really think about what they're writing. They're really working on it. And so I'm like, what's going on here? What are the beats, right? How are these adventures working? What am I doing based on that? So that's certainly my first thing is to go to. We did Gradient Descent recently. We did another bug hunt. Ypsilon, I think, was my first thing I ever did, which was the classic starter, which was just fantastic. So, and then now, like, what do I want to get into? One that's it's sort of left field, but was totally on my list just for the fun theme was the Miami Laser Cutter Massacre. Have you seen that one?
That has completely evaded me. Who is responsible for that? That sounds incredible.
That's Eric Alsandor. He did that one.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it's just it's a real commit to the bit kind of thing where it's like you're in Miami, there's laser cutters everywhere and prisoners, and you're just trying to get out of it's like an Escape from New York kind of situation.
Sure.
And I had to be like, this is so just nailing this one look, that I'm like, that would be fun. That would be fun to do. I've got to run that one day for sure.
All right. Here's my
What about
pitch
you?
for
What would
to
be
get
on
published.
your?
Here's my pitch to get published with Magnum Galaxy. Are you ready? So
Okay,
I've been working on one. So it's called Magnificent, and I've play tested it a couple times to varying degrees. It is. It takes place in some place that's not quite San Diego, not quite Los Angeles, and you, as the crew, are playing the support staff for a beloved band of colorful mech pilots who form together to create. So basically, you're the crew's crew for the Power Rangers, and the adventure starts the day the Megazord starts attacking the Power Rangers base, like the big robot itself, and you just have absolutely awful prototype mech suits that are available in the garage, the like third-rate stuff. And like all of the classes are fun spins on Mothership classics that are like one-to-ones with the Power Rangers genre. And yeah, there's like a laboratory where they've been experimenting on the Power Rangers kaiju, and you can kind of like figure out what to do, as well as solve the mystery of why are the Power Rangers attacking mankind. And yeah, it's nuts because I haven't seen, to your point, a lot of. I was really impressed with. Are you familiar with the system called Home? It's like a map building mech game.
No, sounds
It's
cool,
beautiful. Yeah, it's very simple. It's very elegant, and they had a really successful Kickstarter a couple months ago, and it's cool because it's like and to boil it down into like a pitch of 2 sentences, you collectively as a table decide what the lore is of like why the world is the way it is right now, what the world is, and then the only thing that's true is that like there's a kaiju coming, and that you have a mech.
Okay.
And so then you each, like, kind of in a Tin Candles fashion, make decisions about what defenses you've put in place, and then you roll to see their effectiveness, and then you tell the story of what happened based on that. And so stealing a little bit of Tin Candle, stealing a little bit of Home, and then using the, like, ship-to-ship mechanics of Mothership, launching this bananas Power Rangers adventure. And I have never run it, and anybody ever survived or did. It's just absolute catastrophe every single time.
Yeah,
but yeah, glowing space
that sounds
swords.
like a blast.
Oh, I hear too that when with the I don't think this is inside baseball, so sorry Watt if it is. As the panic engine slowly crawls its way to the surface, the detachment from Mothership that Sean has been toying around with, just to kind of do that powered by the apocalypse move, but using Mothership's core rule set. I hear that Watt is toying around with making like a mech game using the panic engine at its core, and I'm very excited to see about that. Oh. I digress.
Yeah, Sean's teased that he wants to do like a Panic Engine jam or like even a Panic Engine themed Mothership month at some point, and that would be really cool. I've got one I'm calling Apollo's Ghosts. That would be like a near future. You're sort of like it's like your astronauts, but more in a traditional like astronauts in the year 2080. You know,
NASA style,
and changing some of the mechanics to be like. Working off Quadra's actually calm system, right, where you replaces stress with calm. And I was doing it with something called nerve, and you can kind of spend your nerve, right, test your nerve, spend your nerve to like do greater feats, but your nerve you can lose your nerve, right. So it's switching that lens to be a little bit more like it's heroic, but not heroic in a superpower sense, but heroic in these characters like they are these all the right stuff kind of characters, but put against
scope of effort.
These horrific. Yeah. So that's something I'm playing with for that, and like I've got some ideas for adventures based on. Have you seen the film Ad Astra?
It has been a couple of years. The Brad Pitt one.
Yeah, I mean it's not a good movie, but there's some great moments. Like there's this dune buggy race, the moon buggy race across the moon that's just like stuck in my brain. There's the scene where they go to that space station and there's like these rabid monkeys. You know, you're like in space and there's rabid monkeys flying around the space station. Oh, it rocks. It rocks.
That reminds me a little bit of Joel has a like circle the flame. You get to a space station that's run by a what's the word? A rampant chimpanzee who can like control the like weather. Yeah, back to you.
I just love it's just run by the rampant chimpanzee that can like control the weather, you know.
Casual
totally hilarious
stuff. Yeah,
casual stuff. But I would love to do something like that. Like it's 2080. You're very much in the black of space. It's like space is so foreign, and you're finding these places like this weird space station that's half abandoned. But it's like it's like the International Space Station. It's not like some futuristic thing, and exploring those corridors. I think that could be a cool thing to do. So that's my panic engine thing. The
movie Sunshine lives in my head rent free. Are you familiar with that one? Yeah. And like turning genres on their head, where like the sun is the problem. That and there's something that's haunted me since I read it, and this has to have been like 2013, maybe 2010. There's an artist out there named Keith Thompson, and all he does is sketch like creepy ghouls and robots. That part of the internet. But he has what I love about his art is that he also writes these just messed up paragraph blurbs under his stories, and one of them's called the Apollonian White, and it's a picture of like a NASA spacesuit, and you can see like a skull inside, but then there's this like thing, some sort of like awful ghosts in space. I mean like the trope of can't go to the moon, it's haunted. Is one of my favorite things. But yeah, like he has this exquisite lore of just like, and it's just kind of like the UCR does it for Mothership. Like it's a paragraph that starts 3/4 of the way into the story and ends before you know what's going on, about how like we got to the space station and everyone was moving around, but nobody was alive, very obviously. And then when we looked at it through like infrared, you could see these things that were attached to it. But it's all astronauts who had like looked at the sun, noticed an anomaly, and then turned off their communications after they did. Oh, and then he has this amazing. You're just watching me geek out here, but this is the first time I've talked about this out loud.
But this sounds rad for sure.
Yeah, he has this other piece of artwork called the Apollonian Drop Frame, and it's in a world where like it takes place X years later, where whatever happened in space about the whole sun thing got worse, and now a NATO solution of like quick deploy mech suits like to Earth have all landed and started attacking mankind, except that the pilots inside are dead, and they all have like weird sun occult paintings on there, and like when you tune into the comms, the only thing you hear is "burn a path to the sun," and like, yeah, just taking things you wouldn't expect because dark and spooky, except no, bright and shiny, and that's the terrifying thing. Oh yeah. 1-to-1 there. Sorry, I could go on and on and on.
No, but this is the kind of stuff that you take and you put in the creative blender. I mean, I write a list of all these things when I've got something. I kind of start smashing, and this is what starts my drafts. You know, this is the exact kind of thing, right? Oh, it's so good.
Whew. Yeah. Any fun, cool stretch goals that you've got going on for awaiting the burning gods, or stuff you'd like to say out here to the people on the World Wide Web before we wrap things up?
Yeah, so I mean, the campaign's going awesome. I think right now we're dollars away from doing the audio aids, which I haven't done since Hardlight, but people ask for them, and I always get, that's the number one thing I get messages for when people buy my book from like a local game store and they don't have the downloads. They're like, oh, I heard there's some audio things that are good, and like, can you send those to me? And I always send them a download key or whatever. But so I'm doing that again, and it's going to be like the sounds of the different creatures, the seneschal, which are like the scorpion robots, the assemblage, which are sort of their weird little offspring they've lost control of. And you've also got like crackling radio comm signals that are getting lost in the sandstorm. You've got kind of data logs that people can find of the first expedition. So that's dollars away from happening. I'm stoked for that. And then the big one is, you know, I think we can hit it by the end of the campaign, but at 100K, which is crazy to even say that number, but we're going to do a whole second book. So originally we were going to do for Mothership Month, like Awaiting the Burning Gods, with rolling out of the smuggling faction, Smoking Darkness. We're going to do this sort of smuggler's guide to 1365, which is the sector where all the Nakatomi Hardlight stuff happens in.
Cool.
We're going to do that, but we've unlocked so much content for it, and I have so many ideas, and I was sort of brainstorming this with Sean McCoy a little bit when we were leading up to Mothership Month, and I've worked on it with some other people, doing this whole smuggler's toolkit. And at 100K, it's going to be a separate book that I'm going to print, and everyone who's backed at like any level, other than digital, of course, any physical level, is going to get a whole second theme. Yeah, so I am stoked for that, and I'm letting Di Sugars, who's doing the layout, he can do amazing things if you've seen his work with just like mashing and collaging images and all kinds of stuff. So he's going to be totally in charge of the look of that second book, making some real kind of punky zine situation, like taking a textbook from Landis University from the main book and like kind of scribbling over it and like making it into the Smuggler's Guide book. And so I am pumped for that. Yeah.
Oh, wow. The internet, you heard it here first. This has been Bark After Dark with David Kinney of Magnum Galaxy. If you haven't examined his Mothership Month offering, Awaiting the Burning Gods, you're a ding dong. Go check it out. It's right down there in the description. As he said, they're just dollars away from some seriously cool stretch goals. And let's say you've looked at that and said, what a terrible thing to back. What a stupid project. I'm not offended. Neither is he. We have different tastes. There are other options. Dog Eat Dog, the Prisoner Mystery Complex, is available for backing right now, and that's the link below David's. If you check that one out, we are about $2,000 away from doubling the amount of horrors. Right now, when you go to Fern Kennel Complex, there are 10 guaranteed horrifying entities to encounter in your campaign there. Once we hit 25K, we're double dog downing on it, and so then there's going to be, because you broke that first goal, 3 more, so a total of 23 unique horrors that you can encounter at your brief stay at the Fern Kennel Club and Rehabilitation Ranch. So, look, between the two of us, you got options, and they're really good ones. So we strongly encourage you to check it out. David, I have deeply enjoyed this on a perverse and animal level. Thank you for taking the time to chat with us tonight.
Thanks for having me on, Cameron. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed talking with you.
Likewise. Let's talk again soon, but until then, adios, muchachos, fi con dios, etc. Wait, Spanish? What am I doing? Quick, press the button.
Sure.